Good morning, students. I'm Valentina, and I'm joined today by Rodney Harris, who is Associate Director of the Financial Aid Office. Hi, Rodney. How are you today?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. So, thank you for joining me today, and let's just get right into it. Tell us a little bit about your office. What is financial aid? What should students know about it if they have no idea what it is? It's their first time hearing that this is a thing.
Sure. So financial aid affects a great majority of our students. About 88% of our students receive financial aid in some form. And of course, our office processes that and sets it up and gets it ready to help assist students pay their balances. If they have more funding than their balance, they will actually get a refund that they can use for other education related expenses, like buying books or paying for off-campus housing and that sort of thing, if they have those costs. Um, so our office touches almost every student on campus in some way, unless they are just flat out paying out of pocket. So when we say financial aid, what does that mean? That means any federal or state source of financial aid. State sources, the most common are Hope or Zell Miller Scholarship. And then federal sources from the federal government include things like the Pell Grant, which is a grant for low-income households, and student loans, as I'm sure lots of people have heard of student loans, especially in the last few years with what's been going on in the news. But we also process private student loans from outside sources, any outside scholarship, any kind of athletic scholarship or institutional scholarship also goes through our office. Basically, any funding that is earmarked specifically for education is processed through our office.
Okay, cool. I feel like that does encompass briefly, but it does encompass basically what your office does, even though it is a lot of stuff. My next question is about a word or a term, I guess, that I see a lot when I pull up my Tran Guide or when I talk to different members of different departments, and it's satisfactory academic progress. What does that mean? And when I'm talking to somebody about my financial aid, like the financial aid office, how is that going to affect my aid?
Well, as mentioned before, 88% of students at UNG do receive financial aid in some form, and there is a regulation that requires students to maintain a minimum level of academic progress towards their degree. And this is what we call satisfactory academic progress. It is a regulation, and the purpose of the regulation is that if a student falls below these minimum standards, then it's likely that they're not going to earn a degree here at UNG, and therefore we shouldn't continue to have them have access to student loans and that sort of thing. There is no need to go into debt if we feel a student is not going to be successful here. So this is an important concept that students who receive financial aid need to understand. And I actually have a slide that I use during presentations when I do an orientation. So I'd like to bring that up and we'll go over that real quick. So as you can see here on the slide, the federal aid has a requirement of 67% completion rate. That means that you earn a passing grade in 67% of your coursework attempted. And you have an overall GPA of a 2.0. And that again is overall, not per semester. And we check this at the end of every semester when final grades post. So as long as you stay above these minimum standards, you will remain in good standing and continue to receive your financial aid. Now, should you fall below one or both of these standards, there is an appeal process in order to continue to receive your aid, because we understand students may run into a certain difficulty a semester, have a bad semester, but are looking to improve next semester, but still need financial aid in order to continue their academic career. So just be mindful that there is a process to continue to receive aid if you fall below that standard, but it is, of course, best practice to remain above those standards. As you can also see, Hope and Zell Miller have their own GPA requirements of a 3.0 Hope GPA and a 3.3 Zell GPA. And the reason they are described a little bit different as Hope and Zell GPA and overall GPA for federal aid is because there is a different calculation between the two. Just keep in mind that your overall GPA includes all of your coursework, even dual enrollment credits you may have earned in high school. That goes into your overall calculation. and that is what we use for your federal aid. But Hope and Zell Miller, they have a slightly different calculation. It's only coursework attempted after high school graduation, so your dual enrollment credits are not included in there. This is why it is possible for you to have a different overall GPA and a Hope and Zell Miller GPA. So, as I mentioned before, we are available to meet with students who are close to these standards and want to make sure that they of what they need to do academically in order to remain in good standing or keep their Hope eligibility, that sort of thing.
Awesome. Yeah. And I heard so we've gone over a little bit of the differences between maybe different GPAs that students will hear about or see on their Tran guide. So Hope, Zell, and then financial aid. And could you also explain really quick what is the difference between all those and then your UNG GPA? Why might that be different than your overall?
Sure. So, I think it's a good idea that students understand how their GPA is calculated and know the process behind it. There are plenty of GPA calculators online, even some, I believe, on the UNG website that might be able to assist. But it's my understanding that you just kind of plug in some numbers, you hit submit, and it tells you the GPA. So I'm going to show you real quick on how to do as they call a manual calculation. It's not difficult, but I think it gives you a better understanding of how Hope GPA is calculated. So again, I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll just look at a simple process on how to do that. Now, when it comes to calculating your GPA, credit hours and the grade you make are the two important factors. So let's say you're in a 4-hour chemistry class that has a lab. You're in a 3-hour English class, a 3-hour history class, that sounds good, and a 3-hour poli-sci class, political science class. So as you can see here, for the semester, you're taking 12 credit hours. And what these are is they're actually called attempted hours. You may have also seen on your Tran guide, attempted, earned hours, that sort of thing, and GPA hours. So attempted hours are the number of hours that you're trying to complete in the course of a semester. Earned hours is the number of hours you earn a passing grade in, and GPA hours is the number of hours that you receive a grade in, and that would include an F, which is an unearned class. So it can be confusing, but in order to do GPA, you really just need to know the number of hours that you're taking and the grade that you make in that class. So let's say at the end of the semester, you do pretty good in the chemistry class, you make a B. Now that equates to a 3.0 on the GPA scale. In your English class, you make an A. So that's very good. That equates to a 4.0. Oops. In your history class, you don't like history too much. You had some struggles early in the term, and you felt it might be best to withdraw from the class. So you withdraw with a grade of W. So that is a no grade. And then in your political science class, you also like political science. So you make a C in that class, which equates to a 2.0. So how GPA is calculated is GPA equals quality points divided by GPA hours. So what are quality points? Quality points are the number of credit hours times your GPA equivalent for the class. So as I said, the chemistry class is 4 credit hours because it has a lab associated with it. So that would be 4 credit hours times a 3.0. That is 12 quality points. The English class, 3 credit hours times a 4.0 for the A. That is also 12 quality points. The history class, since a W has a no grade, that has no quality points associated with it. And the political science class, 3 credit hours with a 2.0 as a result of the C in the class, gives you 6 quality points. So as we go down to our GPA calculation for the semester, we have 12 plus 12 plus 6. So we have 30 quality points. And the number of GPA hours. How many hours did we earn a grade in? Remember, the W is a no grade. So only the 4 hours in chemistry, the 3 English, and the 3 political science are included. So we have 10 GPA hours. And that equals an overall GPA of 3.0. And so that's how GPA is calculated. And one thing to note is that the classes that are more hours are weighted more heavily. And that's why you have to do this additional quality point calculation to get the true GPA. You just can't say, oh, I got a B in chemistry, an A in English, and a C in political science. And there I go, and just average your grades out. You have to do the quality point calculation. So that is how it's done. It's good to understand this. Like you said, you can use our GPA calculators. They could be accurate, but again, the only thing to be aware of is that if your starting GPA calculation includes dual enrollment credits, and you are attempting to see if you're going to maintain your HOPE GPA, you have to take those credits out of your initial starting GPA before you add the other classes in.
Awesome. Yeah, I always hear those words, and I always have known like why they can be different. But for me, like as a student, they're generally always kind of the same. So I've never had to like be concerned with it. But obviously for a lot of students, that could be something that, especially as you go on through your semesters, could change, affect your financial aid semester to semester. So something to be on top of. Which brings me to my next question, which is about student loans. So as a student, I've heard about it since I was in high school. However, I don't think that there is a lot of clarity among students, particularly first year students, about what the differences are between loans, how to accept them, what the process actually looks like. So can you talk about some successful strategies that students can use if they're interested in getting loans? Do I have to accept the full amount? Do I have to use it all for my tuition? Can I use some of it for books? Any information you can give students so that they can have a little bit more in their tool belt for their first year with financial aid.
Absolutely. There's no doubt that student loans can be a contentious issue with families and students alike. Because the news media, of course, is filled with, how bad student loans is, student loan debt, recently student loan forgiveness. Was it happening? Was it not? That sort of thing. So it can be a very confusing subject. And while we understand that, almost no student would like to have student loan debt when they graduate, that's not preferable. It is part of the financial aid system that loans may be necessary for some students to reach their academic goals. Just be aware, of course, that loans do need to be repaid, but there are many options available that you can use, that you can access student loans. Primarily, the federal government offers a set amount of student loans available to students each year who complete the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. And that's going to be the primary source for most students. Some students, especially if they live on the Dahlonega campus and have on-campus housing, or they live off campus and have rent payments and that sort of thing, they may even need additional loans beyond the set amount that the federal government offers you. There are other loan programs through the state from private lenders. If you are needing to use or access any of your student loans, including federal loans, we advise you to at least meet with your counselor the first time you take out loans so that you can fully understand the process and the implications of taking out student loans. And one of the questions we get asked all the time, and it can be some confusion for students, is, for example, the federal loan offer for a first-year student coming out of high school is $5,500 for that first year. They do not, students do not need to use the full amount. It's not an all or nothing thing. We want you guys to borrow as conservatively as possible. So if you have $1,000 balance that you need assistance with, and that's all you need to borrow, you can borrow just that amount. There's no need to borrow the full amount unless you have other costs that you need assistance with. Also, student loans can be adjusted after you have accepted them. They can be increased or even better, decreased if your financial aid situation changes. So don't feel that just because you've accepted a certain amount, are you locked into that and nothing you can do after the fact. We can change loans up to 90 days after you've received them. So it's loans are very flexible, and we want to do everything we can to make sure that students have the lowest loan debt when they graduate, so that it doesn't affect their future earnings when they leave school.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because when I was a first year student, I was really scared about student loan debt and getting into it, especially because I'm finishing up my bachelor's in December and then I'm going to law school after that. And there is a certain limit that you can reach when it comes to the amount of loans you can get. So my goal throughout college has been to make sure to try when I don't need it to not get loans because I don't want to then get to law school and then, oh, well, you're already halfway into your maximum amount of loans or anything like that. Fortunately, I haven't had to do that at UNG at all, but it's something for students, I think, who are planning on being in school in the longer run,
Mhm.
past just a bachelor's, that it's something to keep in mind. You want to be resourceful when it comes to loans, not just, oh yeah, I can get $5,000. Let me just get that and use only half of it. Like you can do that, but it's not really to your benefit. Um,
Absolutely. And you do make a good point too, that there are maximum limits. So if you take out the maximum that is offered to you as a freshman or sophomore and then into junior year, you could actually run out of eligibility before you graduate. So you know, when it comes to loan borrowing, if that is something you have to do, um, definitely talk to us. Make sure that you understand a plan that if you do need to borrow, that it can last you until you graduate, because that's the important thing, is getting the degree, getting the good paying job after you leave school so that you can pay back those loans and not have it be a financial burden on you moving forward.
100%. And that brings me to my next question, which is when should I actually be reaching out to the Office of Financial Aid? I think some students think after like your first year, if you have hope, and you go in to register and you see how much your bill is going to be, like, that's it. I went to financial aid once, or I talked to them maybe a couple semesters ago, and that's it. Um, then I don't have to go back, which is kind of true. You don't really have to. But if I'm a student and I just want to make sure that my bill is going to go down to the amount that I'm estimating that it will be. Or I did my FAFSA and it looks like I'm getting a couple scholarships and then Pell Grant, I want to just check in. Is that a good time also to come into financial aid? When is it good for me to come in? Is there such thing as coming in too often? If I just have questions, can I send an email if I'm more comfortable? What does it look like my communication with financial aid as a student? When is it optimal? How often is appropriate, I guess?
How often is appropriate? As many times as you need to, or even want to. That's a good point. We have students that come in and have a regular relationship with their financial aid counselor, and that's what our hope with the office. We know we're a valuable part of a student attaining their educational goals, so we want to have that relationship with the student. You have an assigned counselor, so that you're meeting with the same person. They kind of, they may not always remember their last conversation, but it doesn't take long for them to remember, oh yes, we discussed that last time. Sorry about that. We discussed that last time, and you get to have that relationship stay with you throughout your career here at UNG. So as far as coming in, when to come in each year, the thing about financial aid is that it really is a annual cycle. Each year, students complete the FAFSA in order to apply for financial aid. Their financial aid package could vary from year to year. So some years you may get more eligibility, some years you may get less, depending on your household financial situation. So, each year it's perfectly appropriate that once you have submitted your FAFSA for your application and your aid is reviewed, to have a meeting with your counselor. So what's going on this year? Let me make sure I understand where we are. What kind of, maybe if my financial aid doesn't cover my full balance, what kind of out-of-pocket payment will I need to expect so I can start preparing for that? The financial aid life cycle actually begins early in February. That's when we start loading in the first FAFSAs, setting up the first awards for that upcoming fall semester. So, we have a good 6 months that we can meet with students and make sure that they understand every aspect of their financial aid situation. I mean, at the end of the day, it is, your money, as far as this is money that you're using to achieve your academic success. And especially if you're taking out loans, you need to make sure that you understand where you are in that process. Our goal with every student each year is to make sure that their financial aid is set up and ready to go well before the invoice payment deadline approaches. We just had a payment deadline just a few days ago. A lot of students, of course, at the end of that, or just before that, they start to panic. Because maybe they haven't checked in, or they're not sure if their aid is set up. And of course, we help them just as easily as any other student. But if the earlier they can get in, the better peace of mind that they will have when it comes down to it, that they are set up and ready to go for the next year. As I mentioned before, when it comes to even meeting with your counselor to ensure that your HOPE GPA is going to be maintained at the end of the semester. So we can, just because the semester has started and your balance has been paid, you may have questions related to that. Come on in, October, when have you, when you get an idea of maybe what your grades might look like and you want to discuss what the end of the semester looks like, or will you maintain your HOPE eligibility, that sort of stuff. Preparing for the spring semester, making sure that that's okay. We do meet with students at all times throughout the year. Granted, summer is our busiest time, but we're happy to meet with them all year long. Another good point is that students who are planning on graduating, who may have taken out loans, come and meet with us. We can talk to you about how repayment works, what you can expect after you graduate, how to contact your loan servicer and make sure that that's a seamless process as possible. So we help students in all areas of the financial aid process, and we want to have that relationship. And that is why we do have multiple ways that students can contact us. Let me go ahead and pull up one more thing, if you will indulge me, and that is our contact information. So we do have, even though we have offices on all 5 campuses that have a financial aid counselor and can meet with students at any time during regular office hours, which are during the fall and spring semester, are 8 to 5:30 Monday through Thursday and till 3 on Friday. No appointment is necessary. Just come on in. If your counselor happens to be not available or out that day, that's perfectly fine. You can, of course, come back if you want to speak to them directly, but we'll make sure somebody meets with you and assists you and helps you with any issues you may have. We also have a general financial aid email for emails. If you just have a quick question, something like that, and you just need a quick answer to, happy to do it that way. We also have one centralized phone number so that students don't have to try to find out what's the number to their specific office. And this is a call center that's actually located on the Dahlonega campus, where they'll answer questions. And if it needs to be forwarded to your counselor for whatever reason, they'll make sure that they get you in touch with someone who can assist you on the phone. And then lastly, this is something that we started recently with more of the online situation that we've had. We made it possible that you can also have a Zoom meeting with your counselor. Some of our families, especially parents, may live too far away to drive in and speak in person, but they still need that one-on-one connection, so they can schedule a Zoom meeting. Now, doing a Zoom meeting is very simple. All you have to do is simply go to our UNG page, and under cost and aid, contact. And then if you scroll down, you can see the list of our financial aid counselors by campus. And as I mentioned before, you do have a counselor assigned to you by your last name. So for instance, if your last name ends in a D on the Dahlonega campus, Christine Mason is your counselor, does have her direct contact information if you'd like to contact her directly. And then to schedule a Zoom meeting, you just simply click on that link and it will take her to her Zoom meeting calendar where you'll see days and times that she has availability to schedule a meeting. So it's just as simple as that. We encourage students to come in. There are no, as they say, stupid questions when it comes to financial aid. It is a complex and complicated process. It takes years for a new financial aid counselor to really be versed in this profession and be able to assist students to the best of their ability. So we want to make sure that students don't feel intimidated to come in and speak to us. Again, it's about their financial aid and their financial situation as far as paying for college.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that because I have like a pretty personal relationship with my counselor. She knows me. She knows everything like about my situation regarding finances, regarding my family, and it is really different person to person. So just because your friend may have gone and gotten one answer about one question doesn't mean you're going to get the same one as a student.
Mhm.
So I always recommend, especially to first year students that I talk to and that I work with, that going to the financial aid office should never be something that you're scared of. It's something that you're going to have to do at some point in college. So it's better to go early to figure out who your designated counselor is and ask all the questions that you have, because really there is no sense of intimidation once you're actually there. They will answer every question that you have, make sure that you understand what it is on a very basic level so that there's no confusion. If there's really any office that you should go to without even necessarily having to, you should go to financial aid, 100%. And I think we've covered all of our bases. So I want to say thank you to you, Rodney, for joining us today. Thank you for talking to our students, making sure that they know everything they need to know about the financial aid process, about your department. Is there anything else that you want to mention to students before we hop off?
No, I think we covered lots of things that are most important to students, especially once they've started college and they're just and I like that you suggested that students don't end their relationship with financial aid once their bill is paid and school has started. This is a ongoing relationship through hopefully their full time here at UNG, and we'll again be happy to see them at any time and answer their questions.
100%. And I like how you mentioned that it's your money, so you should care about it, because it really is. Even if your parents are helping you, you don't always know if that's going to continue the same relationship throughout college. And at the end of the day, it's your money, it's your name on loans, scholarships, all of these things. So it's your responsibility as an adult when you get to college to figure all of this stuff out. So thank you again so much for your time. Thank you for explaining this to students. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Well, thank you for having me. You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.